Well, the public opinion is very much swayed by the official propaganda. And the U.S. official propaganda is that China is a threat. In fact, we even hear people talking openly about war with China within the next few years. Of course, I think that this is grotesquely irresponsible. There is no cause of war at all. This kind of talk should be absolutely not undertaken by responsible officials. But this is what the public hears. So I don't think that the public's view is formed by their own personal knowledge. Most Americans, unfortunately, have not had a chance to visit China or know people in China personally. And so what they believe is what they hear from their government. And the propaganda from the U.S. government has been pretty relentless in the last 10 years. This is very unfortunate and very irresponsible and very dangerous, I can add. But in the end, American foreign policy is made by a relatively small group. It's not made by public opinion. It is driven by strategists in the security apparatus, the intelligence agencies, the Pentagon, the White House, the National Security Council. These people ought to know better. And this is what I keep saying. They are being absolutely irresponsible in their approach, and we need a different approach in the United States. Well, what's going on is that starting around 2010, the American strategists came to the view that China's economic rise was no longer in America's interest. Again, this was a very naive and wrong assessment because it was based on a zero-sum vision of the world, that if China rises, America must be going down. Whereas in economic terms, we aren't in a zero-sum world, we're in a positive-sum world. China's growth, its technological advance, improves the U.S. economy. The U.S. growth and advance improves China's economy. In fact, when I had the discussion with John Mearsheimer, I was in California, and I think California has been enriched by China's economic development. A lot of people have made a lot of money based on China's economic growth, a lot of investments, a lot of very efficient production, for example, of my Apple iPhone. You know, it's produced in China, it's sold to countless millions of consumers around the world. It's good for Apple, it's good for us consumers, it's good for China for employment. This is how economics works. It's mutually beneficial. It's not good for one and bad for the other. Well, they were very surprised to hear that, because we hear every day that China's bad for the United States. And this is simply a mistaken concept, but it plays into fear and it plays into ignorance. It's not to say that in some parts of the U.S., probably China's competitiveness has hurt local businesses in the United States. But in other places, it's dramatically improved the businesses in the United States. And what economic logic and history shows is that the gains definitely outweigh the losses, and that if the United States had better policy, instead of blaming China, it would have some internal redistribution so that the winners would be helping to compensate the losers, so that everybody would feel good about the economy. That's the basic logic of global trade, that it's on net favorable for the country, even if some places are losing from competition. The winning in other places more than outbalances the losses. And that logic means that we should have a system within any country of social transfers, retraining, reskilling, other kinds of programs to promote new industries, new jobs, quality jobs, and so forth. But that's a normal feature of an economy. It's no reason for the U.S. to blame China. It should be blaming itself for not having the right institutions internally to upgrade the workforce and move into new sectors with sufficient speed. We can also note that China has become the world's low-cost producer of many, if not most, of the technologies we need for the green transition. China's the world's low-cost producer of photovoltaics, of batteries, of electric vehicles, of wind turbines, of fourth-generation nuclear, of 5G, of long-distance power transmission, and so forth. Well, this is a great result for China. It's very good for countries that are partners with China in the Belt and Road Initiative, for example, because they get low-cost technology at very effective, good prices. For the United States, the real lesson is that during this last 10 years when China was building up its industry in these sectors, the United States was doing very little. It was debating, should we go to electric vehicles or not? Well, China said yes, it went to electric vehicles. Something like 400 producers got into the highly competitive market. Now it's being shaken down to a few, but these few are superb. And we have one. We have Tesla, very good, but it's one. China has dozens, hundreds even. And this is a big difference between the United States and China in the last 10 years. China just made this transformation. It went ahead. It didn't debate it. It did it. And the United States should do it as well, rather than complaining about China. Or maybe if Donald Trump comes in and he says, I don't believe in climate change, we'll have another 10 years in which the U.S. produces in dirty industries while China becomes the leader of the clean industries. That would be another tremendous competitive mistake of the United States, but it wouldn't be China's fault. It would be the fault of American politics. The U.S. foreign policy is based on the idea of hegemony, that the U.S. must be the dominant power in every region of the world. But if you aim for that, you're bound to be in conflict with other powerful countries. And so the very definition of U.S. foreign policy puts us on a path of conflict. Now, can this change? Yes, because what is happening is not working. So any new group should absolutely analyze why is it that most of the world does not subscribe to the U.S. version of events? Why is it that most of the world is not together with the United States, for example, regarding the wars in Ukraine and in the Middle East? I hope that American analysts and strategists understand that they are failing in their foreign policy. Of course, I've been saying this for many years. So far, it hasn't changed much, except it has raised actually the escalation. And I can say that in the most recent issue of Foreign Affairs magazine, which is the magazine of the Council on Foreign Relations, and not a bad indicator of where the foreign policy establishment is, the issue is about war. It's not about peace. It's not about a new foreign policy. It's mainly about war. And this is terribly dangerous and terribly wrong-headed. So I'm hoping that friends of the United States will also tell the U.S. that the current approach is far too dangerous. It's far too unproductive. It is, if anything, pushing countries into open opposition to the United States, and that bullying and making demands will not work. It won't work against China. It won't work against Russia. It won't work against even small countries now, which have choices. So this is my hope. It's not a high probability, frankly, of a quick change, but it's not impossible. If you analyze the situation rationally and carefully, you come to the conclusion that a very different foreign policy is needed. I think, if I may say one more point, our current foreign policy was set in place pretty much in the 1990s by Zbigniew Brzezinski and others. And Zbigniew Brzezinski wrote in 1997 in a book called The Grand Chessboard that Russia, China, and Iran would not form an alliance. But of course, they have. Contrary to what Brzezinski said, this is a demonstration of the failure of the ideas that were put in place in the 1990s, because what Brzezinski said was we could bully Russia and they would have no alternative but to fall into line with the United States. But we bullied and bullied and bullied, and Russia said, you know what, we don't want to be bullied this way. And that is really a big part of the explanation of why events have gone the way they've gone.